Hey guys, my name's Justin and welcome to Hellsborough, where we care about the design behind designer luxury. And if you do too, make sure to subscribe. So for today's video, I thought it'd be really fun to once again do another Battle Royale. I don't know what it is, but I always make pew noises and I don't know. So for the uninitiated, a Battle Royale is basically kind of like championship style where we pit 8 bags against each other, 1 versus 1, until we get down to a final. Out of those last 2 bags, there comes out a winner. We talk about things like their design, how practical they are or aren't. Sometimes it's a good thing if it's not, you know. If there is history, we can talk about that or the kind of impact it has. Really just kind of like a, you know, we just chat and have fun. For today, I wanted to do shoulder bags because Y2K has been here, it is here, and it's probably not going to go away for at least a little while. And to me, like, the shoulder bag is very, like, Y2K. So while not all of these bags existed in the 2000s or necessarily fit, like, the Y2K, they are shoulder bags, so that's why, you know, shoulder bag theme. Alright, so the 8 bags are the Dior Saddle bag, the Loewe Luna, the Prada Re-Edition, the Balenciaga Le Cagole. I'm so sure that is not the way you say it. The Chanel Hobo, the Bottega Veneta Brick Cassette, the Louis Vuitton Pochette Accessoires, and the Fendi Baguette. Alright, let's go.
Round 1, match 1.
Dior Saddle
Versus
Loewe Luna.
Fight.
So the saddle bag was invented in 1999 by John Galliano, under Dior, of course, which, by the way, it was allegedly, let's use the term loosely, inspired by Helmut Newton's Saddle 1. And let me tell you, this was one of, like, the Y2K bags. Like, my sister had one. I know, like, multiple people around me who had them, or at least wanted them, because it was, like, the bag to have. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, it's ugly. I like it. But now Maria Grazia Chiuri, she actually kind of reinvented the bag and, you know, kind of made it her own in a way. It feels very true to the original, but it is updated, and then now even some of the bags even come with like longer crossbody straps because they realized how much people wanted it, and I think that was probably one of the reasons why some people didn't get it, because it didn't come with a longer strap, especially for that price. It is like this kidney-shaped bag. It's inspired by horse saddles. It is very polarizing. Either you love it or you hate it, or maybe you just don't know about it. I don't know. I feel like most people can recognize it and will have some sort of visceral reaction to it, but that's that. And then the Loewe Luna, of course, Luna, it's a crescent-shaped bag. Honestly, one of the things that's very interesting to me about this bag is its opening. So they describe it as like a double lip opening, but then it's like, you look at the top of the bag and it's kind of like the way the form of the bag is made, the way it opens is like, you have like the curves and it like, the way that the bag is made, it like naturally like comes together. For, I think, how interesting the construction is, it still is very minimalist and understated in a way. I know there's some versions of the bag that have the little monogram that Jonathan Anderson remade, like on the strap for a little bit more like action. I could see a lot of people who maybe aren't into like luxury or designer stuff wear it because it's, I would almost say it's more like designed rather than designer. Were you designer or were you designed? Okay, so when we're talking about the two of these bags together, obviously they both have pretty interesting shapes. I think the crescent shape of the Luna is very beautiful and graceful, and then the saddle, it has that kind of awkwardness. It can be what is charming to people, or it can also be off-putting to others. While I absolutely appreciate the way that the Luna is engineered, I do think it's important to take into account the cultural impact that the saddle bag had, and has, really. Really, if you're comparing these two bags, they are pretty similar in size and in a certain way the shape. I don't know, I think for me, the strangeness of the saddle bag, it gets the win this time.
Winner.
Dior Saddle.
Round 1. Match 2.
Prada Re-Edition
Versus.
Balenciaga Le Cagole.
Fight.
And then we have the Prada Re-Edition, which again was another one of those like Y2K icons. Very popular, and I think I actually knew a couple people in high school who had it. When you look at it, it really is just like this simple, you know, kind of rectangular pouch. When I think of a shoulder bag, I think of this shape. It's very much like, I do think that in the reimagining of it that's happened over the recent years with, I've seen versions with terry cloth, shearling, and then the one that I think is the most exciting is the one with like the crystals all over it. I definitely think that it's great that Prada kind of stepped, I don't know if it's necessarily out of its lane or out of its comfort zone, but did some of the things that were a little bit more glam, a little bit more like fashion, like a little bit less ugly. I do think it's, I mean, I love ugly Prada, but for them to go into this more like cute, more glam territory, I think is really interesting. And then we have the Le Cagole. It's not from Y2K, it is new, but it feels very Y2K. So this bag was kind of like the shoulder bag slash shoulder pouch kind of version of the city slash moto bag that actually existed back then. I think what makes this still feel very Y2K is there's a lot of details. You get a lot of things dangling from it, like a little, I think there's like a key holder and maybe even a mirror or some sort of like flat thingy. And then when you look at the front, there's like these pleats and studs, and depending on what type of material, if it's like the faux crocodile, it's also covered in like a lot of texture. It's almost like a visual overload in a way, in such like a tiny package. I definitely think that makes it very interesting. I would say out of like all the bags today, these two are some of the most like simple when it comes to shape. I like that Prada, even though they did like the re-edition, they still kept it very simple. Even when they added different kinds of details and textures and materials to it, it still feels very much like the traditional bag. What I think is the most interesting thing about the Le Cagole is that they somehow managed to take the details from these bags that actually were super popular in the aughts and cram all that detail onto this tiny package. I mean, I personally think it's ugly, and I do not like this bag. And I don't necessarily mean like ugly in a bad way, but it's like, it's one of those bags where I'm like, this is gonna come and go. Where like, it doesn't hold a specific kind of style that I think can like stay steady. That being said, if we're comparing the two like face to face, I think the Prada bag would definitely like have a little bit more lasting power. But for me, I think the Le Cagole is just more interesting, so that's the winner.
Winner.
Balenciaga Le Cagole.
Round 1. Match 3.
Chanel Hobo.
Versus.
Bottega Veneta Brick Cassette.
Fight.
Okay, so for the Chanel Hobo, I'm pretty sure this is just a seasonal bag, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to come back in a later season. The shape of it seems like it's informed by the Gabrielle, because the Gabrielle is a hobo, but then this one has a short CC chain to act as like the shoulder strap, which is a really great detail actually, for me. And then you see there's an actual CC logo to kind of get a little bit more of that brand recognition, because, you know, brand recognition is super huge right now. But then what I think really ties it nicely together is that they still use a matelassé similar to what you would find on the classic flap, maybe a little less puffy, but then because it is a small bag, but still the scale of the matelassé is on the like more average size. It's not huge, but it still feels like it could fit nicely with the larger bag. It makes it feel a little bit cleaner, even though it still has like a lot of texture and a lot of details. And then we have the brick cassette from Bottega Veneta, and like the name implies, it is a big old brick. It has a little bit more body to it than the typical cassette, not necessarily in height, but in the way that it's like a little thicker. If you look at the intreccio leather weaving, instead of it being like the ratio of like 1 to whatever, 3, 6, however many it is, it's actually like double the thickness in a way. So looking at these bags head to head, there's something about the brick cassette where they use the width of the leather strips to kind of inform what kind of shape that the bag can take. Even in the fact that like when you turn it and look at the side, you see that it's like, it creates almost like a square of the 2x2 of the like, I don't know, like chessboard kind of shape, right? I do really admire the level of detail for the Chanel Hobo. It feels a little empty, which I think can be a good thing, but it's kind of unbalanced when you think about like how much detail there is in the strap And then the fact that there's just like that really clean logo on the front. And then the matte lissé is just super empty, and you get a bit of texture, and I do think it is beautiful, but there's something about the unbalance there, which feels a little less strong than how, I don't know, the Bottega Veneta, even though it has less details, it still feels kind of more full than the Chanel Hobo. So I think the Brick Cassette is going to be the winner there.
Winner.
Bottega Veneta Brick Cassette.
Round 1, match 4.
Louis Vuitton Pochette Accessoires
Versus
Fendi Baguette.
Fight.
And then, of course, what would a shoulder bag Battle Royale be without the Louis Vuitton Pochette Accessoire? This, to me, is like the iconic, like, if you have a luxury bag as a high schooler, this is the one that you're gonna carry. You can have your cell phone, your lip gloss, your card holder, or maybe just loose change, I don't know, and then that's it. For me, it's super simple, and I know I said like, oh, the Prada Re-Edition, that's what I think of when I think of a shoulder bag, but this is also up there, neck and neck, because it is very much like, when I said like I knew a couple people with the Prada, I definitely knew at least twice as many people that had this bag, so. And then we have the Fendi Baguette. So this is a simple rectangular flat bag. Again, we have another icon from the aughts.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
Honestly, when we are talking about this bag, I think one of the things that really sets it apart is the details and how recognizable they are, like the little Fendi buckle that's up at the front. But then if we compare these two bags, honestly, I don't know, they kind of are very similar in very different ways. I don't know if that even makes sense. They're both rectangles, and they're both kind of on the basic side, which isn't a bad thing. Just because they have a more clean design is not like a knock against them. The Pochette Accessoire is almost so basic that I was like, I have to acknowledge it by putting it on this list, but then I was like thinking just now, I'm like, is there anything else really to it? Because it is exactly what it says. It's just a pouch with a little strap that you can even just attach to another bag to hold things inside of it. And I think that's kind of what the main intention of it was anyways. Meanwhile, we have the Fendi Baguette, which does have more details. It feels more like a bag, as well as the fact that it was so popular and so well known in the 2000s for very fashion-centric reasons. Honestly, like, I feel like this is kind of like a setup in a way, because to me, it's definitely the Fendi Baguette.
Winner.
Fendi Baguette. Alright, so that is it for round 1. Moving on to the semifinals are the Dior Saddle bag, the Balenciaga Le Cagole, the Bottega Veneta Brick Cassette, and the Fendi Baguette.
Semifinals, match 1.
Dior Saddle
Versus
Balenciaga Le Cagole.
Fight.
Alright, so let's take a look at these bags. So the Dior Saddle bag is a more authentic Y2K bag, having been established since the 90s. It has a strange shape that is like super polarizing, but regardless of that, it is very recognizable whether or not it has the Dior logo, Dior branding on it, whatever, or not. And then the Le Cagole, it is the newer of them. Actually, thinking about it now, it has kind of like that, like a bean shape. So we have like a kidney-shaped bag and then a bean-shaped bag, so it's like a kidney bean. But in any case, let me back up. So this bag does radiate Y2K energy, and I think comparing the two, I do think that the Le Cagole has kind of like a fresher take on like Y2K. Both of them have like a very specific energy to each of them. So the saddlebag's energy, it gives me this kind of like artsy, mysterious kind of vibe. She's cool, but not too unapproachable. And then like when you see her at her party, you see her wearing this really intense, interesting outfit, but you recognize that that outfit would look terrible on anyone else but her. And then the Le Cagole has kind of like a similar energy, but also like the exact opposite. So she is the girl who's actually wearing the same outfit as the saddlebag girl, but she doesn't look great in it. But the thing is, she has like a really great personality, and that's what makes people like her. So I'm not exactly sure if that makes any sense, but basically what I'm trying to say is that these bags are for two very different people. But for me, I would say I have to go with the saddlebag because, I mean, who needs like personality and being nice when you can just be like mysterious?
Winner.
Dior Saddle.
Semifinal, match 2.
Bottega Veneta Brick Cassette
Versus
Fendi Baguette.
Fight.
So the brick cassette is this new take on the cassette bag. Instead of it being crossbody, it's shoulder, and of course the ratio, like sizing of it is different, but it still has a very similar feel. And the Fendi Baguette is as the Fendi Baguette was, as it will be, forever and ever. But what it is a pretty basic kind of rectangular flat bag. While the shape of it is pretty basic, I would say it is somewhat recognizable, at least for people in the know. And I think people who absorb a normal amount of pop culture, especially when you take a look at the fact that there is some branding in the logo, that little Fendi buckle. So the interesting thing to me is that both of these bags have a certain kind of minimalism to them. I think with the brick cassette, the form of it is a little bit more awkward in that it really relies on like the width of the straps to inform the shape of the bag. Not saying awkward's a bad thing. And then one interesting thing is that the baguette, even though it has that kind of simplicity in its shape, that means that for me it's easier to kind of incorporate different types of material like jacquard, sequins, and embroidery in a, I would say kind of like in a seamless way that lets it still stay like recognizable as a Fendi Baguette. I definitely think that the brick has something that could make it stick around for a while, actually. There's something interesting about it. But I think the Baguette has already proven its longevity. I mean, we just saw the 25th anniversary show, which I'll link in the corner. I did like a let's see about it, which is like when I just like watch things for fun and then you get to watch with me. Sounds good, right? Oh, this person's sweating. Absolutely. Oh, he almost tripped. Did you see that? But then yeah, like it's already proven it's able to stay relevant amongst like very tough competition. So for me, it is the Baguette that's gonna take this one.
Winner.
Fendi Baguette. Whew, semifinals done. We're on to the finals. Once we're done with this, and I can eat dinner. Woo!
Final.
Dior Saddle
Versus
Fendi Baguette.
Fight.
Okay, so this last round is actually really interesting. So basically, we have two bags that were iconic, very popular and relevant from the late 90s into the aughts. I think well into the aughts, actually. They both got upgraded to have like longer straps, and then they also have like their kind of iconic detail of like the first name of the brand at the end of the flap, which if you even think about it, those two letters are very close to each other in the alphabet. So coincidence? And both of them have been done in different materials, different prints, while both also having their places in pop culture as well. I think if we want to point out what's different, the obvious thing is like the shape of the body. We have the baguette, which is a rectangle, and then we have the saddlebag, which is this kind of like, is the more out there one with this like, yeah, saddlebag, kidney shape kind of bag. When we talk about the saddlebag, you can see the kind of like out there-ness, even when you think about like the use. So when you open up the flap, you have the opening, and then that curvature reflects the bottom of the bag. So I think it's a little bit less practical in a way. Things aren't going to lay flatly and neatly like they would in the Fendi Baguette. But in the end, it does the job of what a handbag is supposed to do. You can put stuff in it and carry it around. Like, yeah. For me, the Fendi Baguette, when it comes to the design of it, I think it does kind of rely on that buckle a little bit when we're talking about the shape in general.
Stop relying on that
buckle a little bit. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but the Dior saddlebag, you could strip away all of the mentions of Dior and you could at least recognize it from the shape alone. I think is definitely a testament to John Galliano and Dior actually for how the brand was willing to go so far out there with the bag shape. That was like that shape. Like that's kind of crazy to me that they would take a chance on such a weird shape. I don't know where I've heard that before. I'm the weird shape. I don't know, I think I really am gonna have to give it to the saddlebag.
Champion.
Dior Saddle. Okay, interesting. I mean, is it very surprising that a weird shaped bag won my favor? I don't think so. But I do think that if you look down this list again, a lot of these bags are kind of like the same shape. So definitely like props to Dior back in 1999 for being like, sure, we'll make your ugly bag, and then, you know, it worked out, so props to them. But what do you guys think? Do you think the saddle bag is like the ugliest bag that's ever existed and you don't understand why it won? Or do you agree and you're obsessed with it and you have one or you want one? Or do you think there's another bag that should have been on this list that you think could have won? Let me know. I love hearing from you guys. But that is all I have for you today. So if you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It lets me know that you like this kind of content and that you too care about the design behind designer luxury. Until next time.